Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners.
I think when you are uncomfortable in life, you kind of find either excuses as to why you're there, or you look for ways to immediately change your situation, or it kind of puts you in a bad mental state of mind. But if you can willingly go there and then try and see, okay, how do I perform in this situation? When you're then forced into an uncomfortable situation, you can make better decisions.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and we're back for another amazing conversation. Today's you're just going to love the energy on this one. I can only tell you, it's super awesome. So, and at the same time, I want to say thank you to everybody who continues to tag us across social media, LinkedIn platform, Instagram, with the Going Long podcast. Really, really appreciate that. And would also say to you, if you have not left your honest written review and you've been thinking about it, go ahead and do that. We've got a nice little video on the Apple Podcast platform that will help you with that. And also listen, if you're looking to hear any of the more than 300 plus episodes at this point in time, just go to firstgencp.com/podcast. You can find all of the previous episodes. You can find the transcripts. You can find the audio, the video, everything you need. firstgencp.com/podcasts. And if you are wanting to understand how you can leverage the knowledge that you have, either from education, whether that's college, or you're looking to continue to leverage your corporate experience and being able to leverage that in a way that you can be able to move closer and faster to the life and the lifestyle design that you're looking for, then this is a conversation that you're really going to want to check into. Because this conversation, our guest, he's just got insight into this. It comes through over and over, especially working in strategy and operations with strong finance background. When you get a chance to meet or listen to the co-founder and partner of Greenleaf, Mr. Dave Codrea, you're really going to enjoy that. And we're going to get to that conversation just after this. So, you know what? If you want to learn the upside to long distance investing by learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, then guess what? Today's the conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest, not only had his educational background in finance with an MBA in real estate as well as urban development, he was also fortunate enough to apply this knowledge in the medical industry. That seems kind of cool. You know, he also had a strategy and operations role for one of the big four. Maybe he'll talk to us a little bit more about that. Maybe he won't, but I think he will. And you know what? Today, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the co-founder as well as partner at Greenleaf, Mr. Dave Codrea. Dave, welcome to the show, man.
Happy to be here, Billy. Thank you very much. Excited to go through some stuff and talk here.
Dude, I am so excited for the entire Going Long family to get to know you. I just love the energy even before in the conversation and all that kind of stuff. And you got so much that you can share and will add and the value that you're going to bring. So I'm really looking forward to that. Dave, you and I talked about it. You know, you're going to get 5 questions. Well, in reality, you're going to get a lot more than 5 questions, but at least you're going to get 5 questions. You're going to get 2 now, and then you're going to get 3 in the end. But I'd like to kind of get started so the Going Long family can start to get to know you. You all right with that?
Great. Yeah.
All right, cool. So help us understand, Dave, where is it that you call home today in the U.S.?
So home now is Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm in kind of the suburbs a little bit north of town. So a little more spread out than directly in downtown Atlanta. But I've lived here about 12 years now. I moved here. It's a great city. It's got tons of things to do, good population growth, and I love the area and I love the weather.
Wow, fantastic. So the ATL, Atlanta. And so it's helpful to at least get us started. I want to take it to the next question number 2, because I love positivity, man. And I would love for you to share with me and the Going Long family, what is the most positive thing that's happened to or for you in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, I've kind of got 2. One, we're a deal-focused real estate group and we operate everything. We got a deal accepted this morning, which the market right now is a little challenging to have that stuff happen. So we got a deal that we got verbal approval on today. So very excited about that. But then also, I've got a 7-year-old boy. He's in robotics camp. So seeing him come home every day, just excited about building random things, makes me happy. So that part's been very good for the week.
That's very, very cool. So this, especially the 7-year-old who's in robotics and being able to see him do different things every day, that's got to be a lot of fun. When the deal was accepted, the actual the deal was accepted or the lending was accepted?
The LOI was accepted on the deal.
LOI.
So now we've got, we're probably not using lender on this one, just kind of current market, but even just getting deals accepted has been taking, it's just taken a while to get everything moving right now. Things are pretty tight. So positive that we got one.
Positive. Love that you share that with us. Thank you so much. And then Dave, just on the back of that, I kind of have to, tell you something. I'm a recovering perfectionist. Everybody here that's listening or watching knows that already. You're just now learning about that. So sometimes I do things that are a little bit beyond, or I try to do things that are a little bit beyond the scope of reality, like telling your entire backstory in, I don't know if I tried 1.5 seconds, something like that. It was never going to happen, right? Because you've done way too much stuff. But I would love for you to share your backstory in your own words and share it now. And you can take a lot more than 1.5 seconds. You can take as much time as you want to share your backstory. The only thing that I am going to ask you for is if you can talk about some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Yeah, certainly. I've always been interested in real estate, and the main reason I was interested in it because one, I like doing things physically with my hands. So I started doing real estate in high school, but I've always been able to fix things and tinker with them. And I really started my real estate career being the maintenance guy, fixing things. And I've just kept that going over the years. It's kind of a slowly building wealth and opportunity strategy versus a get rich quick scheme. So it's kind of the boring book to read of who's going to read the get rich slowly book versus the get rich quickly book. But real estate is a good path long term, but not 2-3 year long term, like long term, real long term. And that's what I've been focused on. I moved to Atlanta because it's got great population growth here in the US. And you look at different states that have good population growth, and Atlanta as a city in Georgia has done very well. So I picked that kind of out of the blue. I didn't know anybody down here, and then moved down here from Pennsylvania. So it's been great. I love the real estate career. I wouldn't change anything about what I've done, and I've kind of just had a slow and steady approach over the years. Never trying to get out over your skis and do too much, and just steadily try and find good opportunities, hit singles and doubles, and do that repetitively for as many years as you can.
Singles and doubles for as long as you can. That feels pretty cool.
It's hard to write a story about what are the best singles you've had. It's like people want to hear about the home runs. The reality is more singles. You just stay on base and keep going.
Yeah. Home runs and grand slams tend to get a lot of headlines, but they happen a lot less frequently. Singles happen all the time, but no one really likes singles, as you mentioned, or don't talk about them very much. So I like the doubles and triples. One of the things that does come to mind, though, right, is there are very few people that actually have the opportunity to, like, you got an MBA in real estate and urban development, right? And so you're getting a chance to use something that you used in college for your MBA. But even before that, like, one of the things that I started realizing, I was listening to you talk, because you were talking about your son with robotics, and then you've always kind of liked to use your hands. What was it that, I guess, motivated you to go for the type of MBA that not a lot of people typically do, which is real estate and urban development?
I like the finance part. So I did undergrad in finance, and the business side of it was always exciting to me. And I, oddly like working with Excel spreadsheets and figuring that kind of stuff out. Mm-hmm. So applying that to real estate, really, there's so much opportunity in real estate because there's so many different types. There's so many different deal structures that can happen. It's really like a wide open blank palette that you can work with to find things that fit. So that's what I liked about it. There's really an endless amount of opportunities. Whereas a specific industry, there's not as much of it. Looking at it from that kind of very, very large picture of it.
Fantastic. So it really gives you the opportunity from the asset perspective to go horizontally across a number of different industries.
Yeah.
And for a lot of us that are listening, that are, in the corporate world, you're understanding the vertical versus the horizontal. So not just in the healthcare industry, or not just in the gaming industry, but all of those industries use something like real estate. And so you're able to apply that knowledge to those specific industries. So I appreciate you helping us understand that that's a bit more of an area of specialization, building on the strong finance background that we talked about before. But so maybe if I even take a step before that, because like I grew up in a household where nobody talked about we didn't even really talk about money, right? Because when you don't have it, it's never a good subject to talk about. And, most people were, if you were investing, you were saving, like just money in the bank meant that you were investing, but that wasn't really investing. But then to be able to get to the real assets and specifically into real estate, it's something that me personally, it took me a really long time. Like even after college, I was working for a couple of years. What was it that actually led could you mention you like working with your hands and stuff like that, but what was it that took you specifically to real estate as an asset class where you wanted to continue to invest your time, invest your energy? You even talked about the specialization from an MBA perspective, but something must have taken you in that direction. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, my dad growing up was an entrepreneur. My grandfather, I mentioned, he immigrated here from Romania, and they had bought some real estate when they were very early on in their careers too, and they started a safety distribution company, in the Northeast area. So they had some, and it was always interesting. I always remember, going out as a kid, I was fixing the roof on my dad's warehouse with him. It was this crazy old stone gravel roof. He's like, hey, we got to go clean this thing off and fix it. And I enjoy doing that stuff. So I was like, okay, looking at real estate in general as an investment avenue, the math worked when I was looking at it. I was like, but I didn't understand a lot of it. So I didn't understand like the management and the people that are involved and endless repairs that eventually do happen. In a model, it looks great. There's no issues in a model. It was like I had a model that was perfect. So there are no bumps in the roads in that thing. But the bumps in the roads are kind of the fun part too. So you get to really see what's going on. But that was, I would say, my early start in finding my interest in it was that like the math looked good. I was very entrepreneurial growing up, and it was stuff I wanted to try. And I was like, well, I can get my hands dirty and I can do the work. So I had a little bit of a sweat equity and less barrier of entry to when I was first starting.
So that's fantastic, right? So then there is you had this ability to see firsthand through your dad, your grandfather, who decided to invest in real estate. And I love being able to kind of set the scene because everybody starts at a different place, right? Because there's always a path to finding what you deem to be successful in real estate. At least I believe that. And it doesn't matter where you start from, right? Some people have seen it right up front and just seen it kind of when you're out, and then you moved into more of the business side, or maybe you just see it as a passive investor when you're 50 years old or something like that, and you're tired of being in your corporate job and want to create something new. So that all of that kind of happens together. But if you could delve a little bit more into the part where, you were going out and you were seeing with your dad or your granddad, like when you were, I guess it's more of like how much of what you were seeing early on, at least that what you can remember now, Dave, were like the really cool, positive things, like everything was perfect versus the stuff that was broken and you being able to try and fix it. Just like even early on, what your perception of was real estate at that time.
I mean, my perception was single family homes. Like my dad owned a warehouse. He still owns a warehouse. They probably owned it for 50 years at this point. I don't even know. But trying to find I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania. So there was a lot of small townhomes. I mean, we're talking 1,000 square feet. You could buy them for $15,000, $10,000, sometimes $20,000, relatively cheap stuff that was not in good shape, but it could be fixed up pretty easily. Mm-hmm. So that when I was taking real estate originally starting, I was like, I just want to get one of these little townhomes and I can rent it out. That was my only goal. Like, how can I do that? I'll make a little bit extra money. Sounds great. I was making money mowing lawns and doing typical kind of kid stuff, and kind of parlay that into how can I get a cheaper piece of real estate of anything. There was no like commercial real estate on the horizon. I didn't even understand what that stuff was. This was just how can I get a rental house? Sounds like a great idea.
Okay. And so would it be fair to say that your early experiences were relatively positive, then that continued to push you in the, you're walking around in the single family residences you see with your dad? Were you seeing the positive stuff, or were you seeing the late night phone calls? I don't know if they were self-managing.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there
are
definitely phone calls and rental issues and things that break. But again, it was a long-term plan. It wasn't hey, I need to try and get this to work next month. It was, how do I build something long-term that's going to, be an organization. I was never in it for, hey, I just want to be able to buy one or two rental houses and that's it. it was always, how do I build something bigger and see what else is out there? And eventually led me down to Atlanta, just following that path and finding, what do I like within real estate and where can I find opportunities?
Okay, perfect. What would you say was the experience that you had in the corporate? So we talked about the kind of like the strategy and operations that you did for a while. Where do you see that? How are you leveraging that today?
I mean, a lot of the stuff that I learned in the corporate consulting environment was all around process implementation. Like, how can you make decisions quickly, efficiently? How can you put processes in place so that those decisions can be repeated? And how do you just keep on building from there? And the consulting side of things was a phenomenal place to launch a career or really get started in business. And I got to travel all over the country, work with a ton of different organizations and super intelligent people to see how they do things. And that was probably the best part that started my career. I mean, I had a real estate interest, and I did some real estate projects and consulting, but consulting is across the board. Mainly financial consulting is what I was in, but learned a ton of just how to build stuff. And I still use a lot of that today in the organization that I'm running now.
Well, and we're going to talk about a lot more what you're doing at Greenleaf. And I guess a part of what you're helping, the picture that you're helping to paint is, hey, look, whether you got started early on and you were seeing all of the really cool stuff, like you didn't say this, but I'm just giving an example, right? That you'd see, your dad, grandfather getting, picking up checks or whatever, or maybe you see that they're getting the phone call late at night and there's things that are broken because maybe they're self-managing. Whatever it was, it set you on a path to want to learn more, and you're learning more. You're using your previous experience. You're building on that. You're getting more specialized experience, whether it's getting an MBA or whether it's moving into the consulting firms, which you're now even leveraging that knowledge today as you have your own company. But each experience is building on the next. And so as you're listening, driving, and you're in the car, realize that Dave is sharing a path that you can also take, right? Especially for those of you that are in corporate roles and you're figuring out, you've got that nagging inside and you're like, I got to be doing something else. Well, Dave is helping to show the path. But a part of that path, you can't get there unless you are uncomfortable. Like, if everything is comfortable, then you're probably never going to change. I know, Dave, for you, one of the things that you are super passionate about, and it's one of the things I talked about, right, just to tee it up, is that you're very passionate about helping people recognize that part of the growth is learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, which seems completely like off the wall for a lot of people, because how can that happen? But talk to us a little bit about what that really means and what is it that has driven this passion for you to help other people recognize that this is something that is important.
Yeah, it's a good, I love the subject. And I think when you are uncomfortable in life, you kind of find either excuses as to why you're there, or you look for ways to immediately change your situation, or it kind of puts you in a bad mental state of mind. So, but if you can willingly go there instead of being forced there, if you willingly go to a place where you're uncomfortable, that could be a personal interaction. It could be a physical location you're in. It could be something you're trying to read or get through, right? But if you willingly go there and then try and see, okay, how do I perform in this situation? Really look into that. When you're then forced into an uncomfortable situation, you can make better decisions from there. A lot of real estate, we end up in uncomfortable situations all the time, whether that's a tenant's moving out and you didn't want them to move out, hadn't planned on them moving out, or something breaks and you now have to fix it and it's an emergency. Those can be events that ruin your day or ruin your week if you allow them to take control over you. But understanding that, how do I enter this uncomfortable situation, keep a level head and make good decisions, is really, from a leadership standpoint or from an investing standpoint, is critical. So I don't think you really can get anywhere unless you find those situations and see how you perform in them.
Yeah, I'm very much aligned with that thought process, right? As a guy from the Midwest who's moved into a country where didn't speak the language, didn't know anybody, to now 2 decades later, having learned 4 additional languages, been now traveled to 86 different countries. It has nothing to do with real estate or investing. It has everything to do with recognizing that a lot of growth happens when you are constantly putting yourself in situations where you become uncomfortable, because you must, as you just said, you have to figure, you have 2 options. it's either you don't do anything and you kind of stay the status quo or move backwards, or you become uncomfortable for a while, figure things out, and then you have the opportunity to grow. And I love the way that you frame that, because Dave, you're also talking about growth and leadership, right? And so I know a lot of the things that you're also doing as it relates to leadership and community building. Can you talk to us a little bit about, that focus for you and how you continue to go about building community, even if you're in a place where you didn't originally grow up, but now you're somewhere new and there's a focus on the community building?
Yeah, we're always looking at, as an organization, you want to have a positive impact. At least I think most people want to have a positive impact in the world they operate in.
Yeah.
And ours, we're a small business. We are based in Atlanta, and we operate in a few cities in and around Atlanta. So we don't have a national footprint. We're not even attempting to have a national footprint. So our impact is local, and it's as locally local as you can make it. Next week we have a cool program where we do a free summer camp for a bunch of our residents. And so we'll have 50 or 60 kids where we do a week-long summer camp for them. And, it's not huge. It's only really for the residents that are at our properties in a little town here in Atlanta. So it's not some global impact initiative that we're on, but we have a lot of people that volunteer within our organization, and we bring in people from outside that too, that have a relationship with us, either a vendor or investor or one of those types of things. And they come help out, and we do a summer camp, and it's just a great experience. We probably get just as much out of it as the kids get out of it for something that we're doing. So that's a big way that we're looking at how can we impact the lives of the people that we're connected with the most. And then just generally speaking, as an organization, we're very goal-centered. I think everyone in organizations have goals and they have metrics, but how relatable are those to what the individual in the organization wants to achieve? And our organization, we see it as, we know this isn't the 60s and the 70s. We're not going to hire someone and they're going to be here for 40 years and that's it. So people are going to have a period of time at Greenleaf when they're here, and we want to help that make it as valuable for them as possible. We want to help whatever goals they're trying to achieve when they came to Greenleaf, that they're able to do that. We do that through incentivizing goals and helping them achieve them. So if we really can do those two types of things, that's focused on a pretty small local area and then just individuals within the organization, that's the impact that we're trying to make.
Well, and as and now I will just say this in a positive pushback way, but you are making positive impact on lives, and you're doing it locally, and you're doing it with intention, right? It's not even that you're trying to do it, because you talked about how you are going to make the positive impact on the 50, 60 kids that are going to be there. You have volunteers who are there. And I also want to sorry, was there something you wanted to add?
No, yeah, it's more of like that long run single and doubles philosophy versus, going and changing the world tomorrow.
Yeah. And so this is one of the other things it is a matter of, what are your individual criteria? And you talk about, you're not attempting to go make it a global initiative. You want to actually do something locally because you want to be able to see the impact. You didn't say that, but you are very intentional about making this a local program and having an impact locally. And so I think it's great to also hear, as you're talking about it, Dave, that it's okay to have initiatives that are local initiatives. Everything doesn't need to be, a global initiative. It doesn't have to be that way, because you get to actually see the impact, the energy, the time that you're talking about. It's just like when you talked about your 7-year-old son who's coming back from robotics camp. Like, you get to see him. And so I think that's also important, just to share that with the Go Along family, because it is one of the things where you realize, like, hey, what is the focus here? What is the impact that we want to be able to make, and where does it need to be? Right. And so I do appreciate you, that you talking about that. One of the other things before we get to the Go Along final three, because you touched on it a little bit. And as you're going to tell us a bit about Greenleaf and more about what it is that you're doing, but I think it's important to also recognize, a lot of the things, the foundational pieces. You've talked about leadership. You've just made an allusion to it right now, is helping those that are working with you, that are been impacted by Greenleaf. A lot of it has to do with people skills. And many times, yes, you may love spreadsheets. At the same time, people are a part of everything we do. Right. And I know it's something that you're passionate about as well. When you talk about people skills, kind of where do you see that overall in terms of number one, impact, and number two, being able to provide the right outcomes, just being able to hone those people skills and to provide outcomes?
Yeah. For me, when I look at leadership or how you work with people, everyone has a different personality. And too often, I mean, I'm guilty of it, certainly. It's like my personality, I try and project that onto other people. And I'm like, okay, here we're in a meeting and we're going to do it like this. And it's really hard to sit back and go, okay, I know this individual operates like this. So I need to come to them to get the best outcome out of this meeting. And as that goes back and forth with different meetings, you're kind of constantly got to reposition yourself to make sure that everyone there is, one, how do they get comfortable as quick as they can so you can have the most efficient, quickest meeting as you can. No one likes a drawn out, extended meeting, but if you're unwilling to compromise on your personalities, that means it's going to take forever and you're never going to get anywhere. So as a leader, you've got to adjust and be accepting of where people are at and make that meeting as efficient as possible and make them comfortable to make a decision. Know that you trust them. You hired them. They work on your team. You either need to trust them and keep them on the team, or if you don't, then you need to tell them that to their face and find a different situation for both of you to be in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that and the importance once again of people skills and in terms of also recognizing what are your strengths, what are your styles, and being able to, as a leader, to be able to adapt, to create transparency, and also to work together to be able to get the outcome that you've set out before that you talked about. So here's one of the other things. So I know we've kind of talked around it a bit, but talk to us a little bit about Greenleaf, some of the mission that you have, and exactly how you are making the impact. You can talk about for whatever aspect you would like to share.
Yeah, we're a real estate firm. We are focused on generating long-term, consistent cash flow returns. So from an investment standpoint, we're trying to find opportunities that will provide consistent long-term cash flow. We don't develop and build real estate. We don't, do anything crazy fancy with it. We kind of buy a lot of the stuff that, once you hear about it once, you're like, oh yeah, I do see a lot of those single-story brick buildings over here. I never really understood what they were for, or, older townhome developments that we can renovate and improve. And we'll buy chain restaurants. We'll buy medical facilities that are small, like dental practices. There's a lot of them. So we're always trying to find an opportunity that we can come up with a strategy and have it be repeatable and go find more opportunities that mirror that decision-making process. So that's led us to numerous different asset classes, all focused in the Southeast though, and all focused around taking a situation where we can generate positive cash flow that's recurring and distribute that to our investors. We look at opportunities in either physical improvement situations where we can go out and physically improve something. Now, not ground up development. We're not building towers. We're not doing any of that kind of long range development stuff. Just make minor improvements to make something more efficient and work better, or operational improvements. That's where we see a lot of our value is how do we operate this asset better with the team that we have in place? Metrics that we look at internally are all around how do we operate more efficiently. It's like a mini version of how Costco works, where they're constantly trying to beat their margins down and do better and better to deliver a better product, which is really cost to their customers. We need to look at things the same way and just determine how can we consistently do better and improve our operating metrics, because it improves our returns that investors see, and it improves the livelihood of our employees as well.
Fantastic.
That's really what we're doing, and trying to do long-term vision as possible.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of the things that you mentioned before, right? And it's a delayed gratification. It's being able to help to educate and understand, and it sounds like you're also leveraging a lot of the previous experience that you've had, whether it was on finance side, whether it was on leadership side, or whether it was on improving process side of things. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us, Dave. And the thing is, we've got to get into the Going Long Final Three, man. And so I never ask anybody, and today you're our special guest, the Going Long Final Three, unless you tell me that you're ready. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. All right, here we go. So we started with you over in what I team, what I sometimes call the ATL, Atlanta, in the state of Georgia. But I'd like to bring it back to this side of the pond where this guy from Columbus, Ohio, has actually been living in Europe for over 2 decades now. And so I would love for you to share with me, what is your favorite European city, Dave, that you have either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
I would say I enjoy remote or hard to get to places. So I would probably go to some place like the Faroe Islands. I've never been there.
Nice.
They look amazing.
Nice.
There's, your bridges that are going underwater. I guess that's not a bridge, that's a tunnel. But
it's all good.
Very cool environment up there. I'd love to go up there and see that. And spend some time up there.
That's a first, man. Faroe Islands. So love it. So we'll take that. We're going to move to question number 2. And I'm going to guess that everything you've ever done your entire life, it always works out perfectly the first time. I'm sure
yes,
that,
it does.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. I got the same smile. I got the same laugh, Dave. So here's the reality. Whenever you are outside of your comfort zone and you are trying new things, there's always the probability that something will not go 100% according to plan. And depending on the size of it not getting to the 100% of the plan, like you're going to have, you made a mistake somewhere along the way, right? Or you've had a learning opportunity if you want to put a different spin on it. But the reality is whatever goal you set out, you didn't get to the goal. And so more than likely you've learned a lesson from that mistake, from that learning opportunity. So I don't want you to think about the learning opportunity or the mistake that you made, but what was the actual lesson that you took away and that you've started applying to other situations to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again? What's the one lesson that you want to share with me and the Going Long family today?
Yeah, I would say that you're definitely going to make mistakes. So having a plan for how to handle what mistakes are coming up is important. And that could be anything in life. That could be anything in a real estate deal or an investment, knowing like, look, some of this stuff isn't going to go to plan. So as that breaks, what is my solution for checking in every month or make sure, when something is off track, how do I get back onto a track that I'm comfortable with? Because it won't be the original path. It's going to be a new path after you have that first mistake or that first hiccup in any situation. And you've got to be comfortable with the new path and know that, hey, I'm readjusting my mindset. This is the path forwards, and don't get caught up on whatever did happen. You've got to be able to adjust in the moment and pick that new path.
All right. So be ready to adjust, plan to handle the mistakes, and be able to you didn't say this word pivot, but pivot and adjust, as you did say, as necessary. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. And the last thing, Dave, is really about helping us to fill our brains with knowledge, and really would love to know, what is the one book? Because you talked about that earlier, but what's the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
I would keep consistent with my theme of uncomfortableness, but John Krakauer's book, Into Thin Air. It's probably like 20 years old now, but it is a great book about 96 kind of disaster on Everest. I mean, challenging environment, uncomfortable situation for sure. And just seeing how everyone worked through that event. I think there's a lot that can be learned from that. And, hopefully you're never in that extreme of an uncomfortable situation, but you can take the lessons from that and apply it to really any situation that you're in.
All right, fantastic. Into the Air. So we're going to make it easy. So don't worry if you're running on the treadmill or if you're swimming or if you are driving your car. Don't worry. There's like a link and all you have to do is click it and you'll go to Into the Air. So Dave, man, these conversations fly by. Like every single time I have a conversation, I cannot believe how quickly they go by. I mean, you start the beginning of the conversation, you're talking about the LOI that you got accepted. You're sharing with the the fact that you're able to spend some time with your son and watching him come in, his 7-year-old from his robotics camp, and being able to help you to just share some quality time together. I think is phenomenal. So appreciated that. Then you even shared a little bit more with us, like, hey, listen, guys, I actually got some insight into this real estate thing because my dad and granddad both did it. And, I like working with my hands, and I saw some good stuff. I saw some bad stuff. And you know what? Eventually I even went down a path that took me to figure out how can I take these types of assets that I've seen as a kid and be able to, extract value out of them. And so whether that was a finance degree that you had, or whether that was actually going in to get specialized knowledge on a horizontal basis, meaning that you could go into any industry using real estate knowledge as well as urban development. Even though you're not doing a lot of the urban development stuff today, you are recognizing how you can actually integrate and build communities thinking about the people skills, and most importantly, helping people to recognize that part of growth comes from being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You talked about the things that you are doing with Greenleaf, the impact that you're making positively on the community, and the entire Going Long family is thinking, yeah, Billy, we know all that stuff, but just ask them the question, please. So here's the thing. I would love for you to share with me and the entire Going Long family, what's the best way to find out more about you, Dave, and how we can contact you and find out more of the things that you're doing at Greenleaf?
Yeah, LinkedIn, really. On LinkedIn, I've got my phone number there, email address, our website is all there. It's all public, so you can see it. And we've got a newsletter that we send out every week that really just touches base to our core group of, hey, what are we doing? What are we seeing in the market? What opportunities are coming up? And yeah, but you can find me on LinkedIn just under Dave Codrea and looking up for Greenleaf Management.
All right, fantastic. So it makes it very, very easy, Dave. So I just would like to say on behalf of the entire Going Long family, thank you very much for deciding to invest your time with me and with us today. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, awesome. Dave, can you give me like 15 seconds, man? I'm going to wrap things up and then we'll get you out of here. Going Long family, I mean, I don't think you can keep it any more real than Dave just kept it. So listen, whether you're in corporate or you're thinking about that it's time to do something else outside of corporate, if you've got this passion, you've got an opportunity to learn more, literally share today's conversation, share it with 2 or 3 friends, get on a phone call, meet at a coffee shop, talk about the things that Dave talked to you about today. Are these things that you've experienced? Are there things that you've not experienced? And heck, if you need some help, you can even reach out to Dave because he can give you some insights and he can talk to you about some of the things that he's doing. So while you're taking action today, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.